It is time for Coffee on the Coast. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Coffee on the Coast. I'm your host today, Tina Prigge, and as you know, this time slot we usually reserve for talking to the Manitowoc Public Library about their events that are upcoming, about their books and other exciting things happening. Well, today is extra special, and I'm so delighted because I'm actually joined by author Greg Renz, and we're going to talk about his book, and we're going to talk about how you can meet him at the author book signing tomorrow at the Manitowoc Public Library, and he will also have books available. Greg, welcome to Coffee on the Coast.
Well, thanks. This is really a treat. Anytime I get to talk books with somebody, especially somebody like yourself who loves books, it's a great time.
Thanks. Well, we're so happy to have you here. So, Greg, we are talking about the book that you wrote, which is called Beneath the Flames. It's a novel, but I understand that you are a retired Milwaukee firefighter and that the book is based partially on your experiences as a firefighter. Is this your first novel?
It is. It's my debut novel, and I think it probably only took 10 years to write. But yeah, it's based there. It's drawn from a lot of my own experiences. But one thing about the fire service is storytelling is really ingrained in the culture of the fire service. We spend a lot of our downtime entertaining each other with war stories. And for the most part, a lot of these stories actually get better with time. Don't know why that is, but so not only my own experiences, but the experiences of so many of my brothers and sisters in the department, some of whom were just amazing storytellers. So I was able to draw on, their experiences plus my own experiences. And, when you look at 28 years of experiences, and also working with some really, really colorful characters. And when I say colorful, I might be kind of being kind here because some of us probably shouldn't be out in public. But by the same token, these are the people you want crawling into a burning building to save your family. And I worked in a unique atmosphere in the inner city of Milwaukee. And so with those three things combined, when I retired, I thought, I was an avid reader, and I thought, I might like to write my own novel, really. How hard could it really be? 10 years later, it was finally published.
So it's not 10 years because you were trying to write while you were a firefighter. You retired, and then you undertook this epic journey to write your first novel.
That is correct. Yeah, I really, you do a lot of writing as an officer on the fire department, but, it's fire reports and EMS reports, but most of those really aren't supposed to be fiction, and they're not supposed to be creative. So when I decided to write a novel, I had to learn the craft of creative writing, which was a whole nother genre. It's a whole nother ballgame. And I learned out early on, I really knew nothing about writing, creative writing. We all read a lot, but to actually take, stuff from your head, the stories, and put them on the page, I realized I really knew nothing about that. Thankfully, I had some really great instructors at the University of Wisconsin in Madison who early on the early assignments would come back all marked up and read. It's like, yeah, Greg, you really got to work on your grammar, punctuation, syntax, your point of view is all over the place. But these stories are really compelling. Please keep writing. So they were able to, show me what I needed to learn without frustrating me to the point where it's like, no, that's too hard. There's no way. It took, during those 10 years, what I was doing was writing scenes, but learning the craft. So I'd write a scene and I'd get it back. We, work on it. And when I finally got about 100 pages into the novel, I realized, okay, now this is really taking shape. And my mentor basically cut me loose and said, okay, you need to just finish this novel. You're at a level of writing now that you don't need my help anymore. Just write the darn thing.
That's awesome. And it's impressive that you didn't give up, that for 10 years, as you realized that you needed to learn and to study the craft, that you kept going. So you really must have been passionate about this storytelling. And I imagine that it comes through in the novel, because I do want to let people know that when you were a firefighter, you were involved in a dramatic rescue of two little boys from a burning basement bedroom. And that because of that, you received a series of awards, including in 2006 being inducted into the Wisconsin Fire and Police Hall of Fame. So you've really seen some things, I imagine, and had some experiences that are worth talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And sadly, most of most of the time when we respond to a fire, either the occupants have self-evacuated or they're gone. They've passed away in the fire, and so it's a rare opportunity when you do get a chance to actually save some people. And it was definitely the high point of my career. And you get a lot of awards and accolades, but the bottom line is that any of my brothers and sisters in the fire department would have done the same thing in the same situation. And I love telling the story because there's some really miraculous turns that this story takes from start to finish. So I'll be sharing the entire story at the library tomorrow evening. And every time I've told it, it really it affects people in a really an emotional level. People start thinking about their own kids, if their kids were trapped in that fire. And I know the first time I told it was at an awards banquet, and I think that really kind of stirred my passion to write, because when I told this story, and I should add that my chief told me, when you receive the award, do not get up there and say that you were just doing your job, because that's what we always say. This is too important of a story. Make sure you get up there, share that story, because there's a lot to this. People need to hear that. So I told the story from start to finish at this awards banquet. And as I got deep into the story, I saw a lot of tears. And then I had reporters coming up afterwards saying, wow, that was one of the most dramatic stories I think I've ever heard. And so hearing that, I think triggered something in me that said, now, if I could learn to do on the page what I just did in front of an audience, how powerful would that be to reach a lot more people with stories like this that really move people on an emotional level? And when I first started writing, I was asked, well, what kind of stories do you want to write? Do you want to write thrillers, crime novels? And it's like, you know what? What I want to write more than anything are stories that engage people on a deep emotional level. Something when they're reading it really tugs at their heartstrings, and they can put themselves into the story and feel those emotions that the characters are feeling. So that's what I really worked hard on throughout, learning the craft, was going in that direction. I mean, I love mysteries and I love thrillers, but that wasn't what I wanted to write. So, yeah, I one of the greatest compliments I received from, we have beta readers, people who are willing to read our manuscripts before it actually goes to publication. And for me, I think the greatest thing to hear was, God darn it, Greg, you made me cry again.
Well, it's brilliant because you have so much experience to draw on, and you've got that firsthand point of view to be able to tell these stories. It's fantastic that you're sharing them so that readers can put themselves kind of in your shoes. And let's make sure we tell viewers that tomorrow night, they actually have the opportunity to meet with author Greg Renz at the Manitowoc Public Library. It's going to happen Thursday, September 9th, that's tomorrow, at 6 o'clock p.m. in the Balkansky Room. The book we're talking about is Beneath the Flames. They will be available for purchase and for book signing, and it sounds like you're going to be sharing some of your firsthand stories.
Yeah, that's when I first published the book, I had been to many author talks, some New York Times bestsellers, and so I tried to draw on the ones that really engaged me. And what I found was that for the most part, the best ones shared stories about themselves, and then kind of got into the book a little bit later in the talk. But some of the stories they shared were, emotional stories of growing up or whatever it might be. And I thought, okay, I've got plenty of stories to tell. And I remember Wayne Dyer once saying that, he sold millions and millions of books, inspirational books. And I remember him saying once, so, I've never sold one book. He said, I sell myself, the books sell themselves. And I thought, yeah, I see how you're going about that. So, I do talk about the book, and certainly talk about in the journey itself from retired fire captain to published author. There's some nice twists and turns in that also. And as you said, just that whole thing about not giving up, that is so huge. I think persistence is what really separates published authors from writers who are working to be published. Because over the 10-year period, I went to so many writers' conferences and workshops. I actually worked with a Pulitzer Prize winner down in Florida, Robert Olin Butler. And through all of that, I met so many writers. and the vast majority of them never finish their books. They give up, and I think maybe that kind of comes from what's ingrained in us in the fire service, because we never give up. You can't go to a fire and go, oh, we can't do that.
Yeah,
Or
close enough, right?
yeah, or go to a horrible car accident with the jaws of life and go, yeah, I don't know if we can get that person out. So you might change tactics, and certainly as a writer, you change tactics too, because you go from like the first draft of your novel, which for me was huge. It was 176,000 words, probably around 700 pages. So I had to change things, and I, cut things out and kill a whole lot of darlings, what they talk about cutting.
I was just going to ask you that. Yes.
So yeah. Oh, yeah. And early on, it wasn't that hard, because, you would cut some of the storylines that were in there, plot layers, and some of the characters that really, it's like, yeah, they were great characters, but you really had to start prioritizing who were the most important characters and what were the most important plot layers. And so it wasn't hard early on, but when you get down to that last 5,000 words, because when you want to attract the attention of a New York agent, a debut novel has to be under 100,000 words for any kind of agent to look at it. If just your first line in your query is going to be what the genre and the word count is. And if it's 120,000 words, they never look farther than that. Doesn't matter how good the book might be, how good the writing might be, because they get, hundreds and hundreds of queries a week. So they're just looking for a reason. It's like, okay, get rid of this one. He doesn't understand word count for debut authors, so I'm not interested. And that was a hard lesson too. It's like, I wanted it. I mean, some of the stuff I cut in those last several thousand pages were really good scenes, and scenes I worked months on, and even the beta readers just loved them. But then it got to the point where it's like, okay, I got to prioritize, and it's like, which scenes am I going to get rid of? And it's tough. It really was tough. But in the end, the persistence, and of course, my wife actually calls it stubbornness, but
yeah. So some of those darlings that you had to kill along the way, can you reserve them for like maybe novel number 2 or 3?
Yeah, I do have them, and they're filed away in the computer, and I can go back to them and go, oh yeah, that might fit into this one. So yeah, they're not lost forever, and some of those I hope that I can use in future stories. But
so, what do you think? Would you do it again? Would you undertake another novel?
After working on the craft for 10 years, and had I worked on this for 10 years, and the story would have come out and it would have sucked, I don't think I would have done it again. But I'm receiving such great validation from other authors who have blurbed the novel. Jackie Machard read it and gave me a wonderful blurb. New York Times bestseller, and her book was the first Oprah book, Deep End of the Ocean. And Nick Butler, a Wisconsin author, and J. Ryan Stradle, who writes Midwestern novels, and a bunch of other ones. All of them just loved it. And the one that really I was worried about was Kirkus reviews, because they can really be vicious, and they can just rip your novel apart and just say, this is not even worth the paper it's written on. So when it went out to Kirkus, and like I say, they review just about all the major books, and they'll rip some of the major authors, and it's like, whoa, man, what am I? Well, they came back and they loved the story. So I got a rave review from Kirkus. And then, even the Amazon reviews, they say you shouldn't read the reviews, but it's hard not to. And out of all the reviews, it's just a handful of reviews less than 5 stars. And out of all the reviews I read, there's not even one negative comment, which on Amazon, that's pretty amazing, because there's always some, I wouldn't call them haters, but people who like to say negative
trolls
stuff.
Live there, yes.
right. So with all that validation, it's like it inspired me to, it's like knowing you can do this, and knowing that the first one worked as well as it did. It's like, okay, I can put that work in. Although I'm going into it with a lot clearer eyes this time, knowing how much work it's going to be, because I had no idea. I mean, not only writing the novel, but then looking to get it published. That's a whole nother ballgame, trying to find an agent or a publisher. And then once you find them, even the major publishers want the authors to market. So now I have to go out and market and sell and talk. And not that I mind talking, you can tell I don't mind talking at all. In fact, for me, I think this is some of the most fun things I do. Sitting at the desk upstairs writing, it can be really fun, but most of the time it's pretty grueling because you never get the stuff.
Completely different from your professional life, right? Like, so as a firefighter, you're out in the public, you're constantly mixing. And when you're a writer, yeah, it's you and your screen.
Absolutely. So that part of it, and there's so many ways to look at it. It's like when I really get lost in the story, there's nothing like living in that world that I'm writing about, and I will get lost in it. And as a lot of people have said, oh, this has brought tears to their eyes and stuff. And writing some of the tragic scenes, one of the things that is so true is if there's no tears by the author, there's going to be no tears by the readers either. And so some of these scenes that really tug at people's heartstrings, tears are rolling down my face as I'm writing it. It's like, yeah, this is hard. But this is the way it has to go. You just can't write. People don't read to read about nice things for the most part. You're gonna have to put some tragedy in there to get people's attention.
That's really interesting insight.
And tragedy is something that sticks in somebody's head. I mean, you look at, even Romeo and Juliet, if they live, I don't know if that story lasts the test of time. It's right. Like, oh, that was nice. They got back together, but it's so tragic. I mean, it just sticks with people. So,
I have to read this blurb for the viewers.
Oh, sure.
We're talking about blurbs, and so this, if this doesn't capture somebody's attention, it says it's a mesmerizing story of love, race, and life as an urban firefighter that brims with emotion and humanity. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, that pretty much captures the story, definitely. Yes.
And even the one that's on the title of the book here, I'm just going to read it because it's so small, but it says, Gregory Renz's new novel is a triumph of poignancy, compassion, and restraint. In it, a man's regret is transformed to triumph.
Thank you, Jacqueline Machard.
Nice. And based on everything you're saying, it's no wonder that there's the 2 gold labels at the bottom. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. Well, and that's some of the other validation that, over time, it takes a little bit of time for the novel to get out to the awards, different awards places. So the novel actually at this point has received a total of 5 awards. 2 of them are International Book Awards. It won a Midwest Book Award and Public Safety Writers Award. So I guess it's okay. It's doing pretty well.
Nice. Well, let's just tell people one more time, they have an opportunity to meet you, to purchase a book, to have a book signed by you. This is all tomorrow, Thursday, September 9th, 6:00 p.m. at the award-winning Manitowoc Public Library in the Balkansky Room. It is so exciting. Greg, are you going to be wearing your hat?
I'll actually have it with me. I usually bring my full turnout gear to the talks, just so people get an idea of what we wear. And this turnout gear has been through quite a few fires, so it's pretty well beaten up and torn up, but it's kind of like it tells a story itself. So yeah, I will definitely have some gear, and I'm going to have some other displays that people can check out there also. And I'm not sure if they're going to be showing it, but there is a YouTube video of the rescue that I'll be talking about, and it's about, I think, about 7 minutes long, and it's the media coverage of the saves, and at the end of the video, the viewers get to see the 2 little boys. And the YouTube can be found at Greg Renz. So you do a search for Greg Renz and look for Engine 24 Rescue, and you'll see the YouTube video of it. And which is it's good, but there's so much more to the story, and that's what I really love. I mean, I can't tell you how much I love telling a story, because every time I tell the story, I get to relive that just incredible, miraculous evening.
Yeah, and we're really lucky that we get this little peek kind of behind the curtain into your process, into, the passion that you've poured into this book. It makes it all the more poignant, the chance to pick up the book tomorrow, or, if somebody isn't able to meet tomorrow, I'm sure they can get it from their local booksellers or from
Yes.
Amazon, all the standard outlets.
Right.
It's so cool to know that this is a real life point of view. It's a novel, but that you really lived what you're talking about. So you know what you're talking about. You've studied the craft. You've now presented an award-winning book. This is pretty cool. I really appreciate you coming on to talk about this with us. And I really just want to congratulate you on
Thank you.
such a successful first book, and thank you for your years of service. That's wonderful.
Well, appreciate that. Thank you for saying so.
All right, folks. So you have a chance to meet author Greg Lenz, author of the book Beneath the Flames. This is tomorrow, Thursday, September 9th at 6:00 p.m. at the Manitowoc Public Library. Greg, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Coffee on the Coast, and keep up the great work. We'll be looking out for novel number 2.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks for watching.
Sure.